Hey, this is CeeCee, and thanks for joining me for another video about the Documented Life project. This is week 3, and for week 3 the challenge is the color wheel. And as for the prompt, it's a quote by Georgia O'Keeffe, and it reads as follows. I found I could say things with color and shapes that I couldn't say any other way. Now, I'm not going to use that quote. I'm going to come up with my own, but I'm still recording it in my index pages at the beginning of the journal. These are the colors I'm going to be using today, and the paints I'm going to use d.d.o Weekly, heavy body paints, acrylic. And to begin with, I'm going to create my own printed tissue paper. I'm using stamps from KZ Art, and by the way, all the supplies I'm going to be using today will be listed on my blog post. I'm inking those stamps. There are a bunch of quotes which are very positive, and I like them. I'm inking them up with jet black archival ink because I'm going to be adding medium over that, so I don't want the black to smear. I'm stamping in subway art fashion on this tissue paper, and now you can see the whole tissue paper printed. I love doing that because it's a lot easier to stamp on tissue paper than it is to stamp on a whole page like this, because of the journal gets bumpy as you go along, and there's also the crease in the middle. So if you print on tissue paper, then you avoid that problem. I'm gluing the tissue paper with Aideen's Collage Page. This is a Tracy Batista product, and you have to be careful when you handle tissue paper. It has a tendency to tear, as you will see in a few minutes. I'm kind of very heavy-handed with the brush. So, and you have to let everything dry completely before proceeding. It's very important. So I'm gonna tear the excess paper, and I'm going to add some white paint over that. So the reason why I added the gel medium before adding the white paint is to avoid ripping the paper further, because what I'm going to do is wipe over the white paint with a baby wipe to reveal some of those words that I have on the tissue paper. And I kind of lost patience with my tearing and ripping, so I'm using a sanding block to smooth out the edges of the pages. So this is my second layer of it's my layer on top of the Collage Page. It also protects the ripped spots, because when you rip the paper like this, you expose the paper underneath. So the reason I went for white paint as opposed to gesso, because I'm nearing the end of this tube, so I wanted to use it up, but I could have used gesso as well. And as you can see, I'm mixing the paint with water because it's heavy body paint, and I don't want full coverage. I want just a smoother effect of the text. I don't want them so black. And of course, I'm going to dry this again thoroughly. You're going to see me use a hair dryer often in this project, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. So now, as you can see, I'm using a baby wipe to uncover some of these quotes, which I'll end up covering, but it doesn't matter. You get to see what it is. This is Absorbent Ground for acrylics, and what that does is it provides like a wider surface, and it also provides a gritty surface, so that if I decide to add water to the paint that I'm going to be using over that, it'll give it kind of like that watercolor effect, and it will protect your page even more. Now, I have to apologize here. This is liquid frisket, which is a masking fluid, and I got distracted by phone calls, so you didn't see me apply the whole thing, but you have to apply this masking fluid, let it dry completely, and you have to apply it on a very dry surface, otherwise it won't work. And dedicate a brush to that liquid because you will lose it. So what I do is I use the same brush all the time, and I keep it together on the bottle with just a rubber band. And this is what it looks like when it's dry. It's very yucky. So now I have that word blocked off, which means that whatever I have underneath the masking fluid will stay as is. And then I can add the paint over this without worrying about the word being smeared. It will protect it definitely. So I decided to use kind of like the colors of the rainbow for my color palette. And I've applied the paint with a palette knife, and then I'm wetting that those spots of paints and blending them with a brush as well. But as you can see, even if I add water, this isn't it's not going to seep through the paper, and it really does help grabbing the paint by having that absorbent ground underneath. And I'm just letting that drip. And while I was drying this, it occurred to me that if I use a heat tool, I will melt the masking fluid. So you're going to see me switch to a hair dryer on the cold setting or the cool setting for the rest of the drying. But before I proceeded, I let that dry a good part of the day. This is where I switch. And now the fun starts. So liquid frisket, you just have to peel it off with your fingers by rolling. You just find the sweet spot, and then it's going to come off really easily. It's kind of like what you find in magazines where they put those annoying adverts, you know, those little cards that you have in magazines. You just pluck them away. Well, that's what it is. It's liquid frisket. It's the same thing. And it's a lot of fun. So as you can see, my word really stayed as is, and I love doing that. I've done this on watercolor, and it's so much fun. All right, this is where I went wrong. There's a few do not do's on this video, but I just leave them in because I think it's fun anyways. My objective was to uncover some of those quotes through the paint, and all of a sudden the balance wasn't correct. I felt that my paint kind of became wonky. By the way, I just punched out some journaling spots, and the pages were from a composition book, one of those cheapy books that you get at the office supply store. And these are going to be my journaling circles. Now I'm using a Permaball Pilot pen to add some doodle flowers. They are not real flowers. I have no idea what kind of flowers they are. They are flowers from my head. And I decided to add more scribbling to it because they looked a little too perfect. So I'm just going around the lines and making them really sketchy. So this kind of adds some sort of balance to the page, because also my word colors was a little bit more to the right. So I'm trying to balance the whole page by adding some vertical elements to it. And this is the quote that I decided. Actually, I wanted to write "make me happy," so colors make me happy. And I don't know why I wrote "keep." So, and then I signed "me," because the quote is totally me. It's all mixed up. I'm dripping some Dr. Martin's India ink, black India ink, and this thing scares the heck out of me. I can never get the drips to work for me. They're always too big and fat, but I went for it anyways, because this is the object of art journaling, is to experiment and to leave the not so fun parts and just get comfortable with all the mediums that you may have on hand. So now I'm gluing the art journaling spots the journaling spots to my page, and I'm removing the excess. And I use the same thing. I use Collage Posh to remove the excess, to glue the circles to the page. And now I'm adding some black with a Stabile All pencil and blending it with a water brush. And that will make the circles pop. And they look like they belong there all of a sudden. So it's just to incorporate them in the page. And I'm going to add the date and write in the dates of the journaling. I'm sorry. Of course, I'm not going to journal right now, because as I've said in my previous video, this is personal to me. And the object for the journaling in this book is to keep it really short. I don't want a full novel. I just want the basic line for like every day, like the major event that happened during that day. And my page is done. So I'm going to give you a close-up. As I've mentioned before, all the supplies that I used today will be listed in my blog post, and I will link below so that you can go to that. And that's it. I hope that you've enjoyed this. As usual, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and like it if you like, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. And I will see you later. Bye.